Now I know what you're thinking. Melody? What about technique? What about altissimo? What about overtones? Well, all those things are important, but you know what? The thing that separates great saxophone players from average saxophone players is their understanding of melody. And that's what I want to talk about in today's lesson. In fact, we recently did a masterclass with the amazing Derek Brown, Beatbox Sax guy. Unless you've been living under a rock, you'll know about Derek Brown, but check this out. Man, Derek is great, obviously a fantastic technician, and he's playing the bass and the drums and the melody when he's playing. But during our conversation, we got onto the topic of melody, and he shared some great reasons about why he thinks melody is important, and that's what I want to talk about in today's lesson. So stick around, it's going to be really interesting. Don't forget, if you're new here, click the subscribe button and the bell notification thing so you don't miss any of these videos, because I'm making them all the time for you, and I wouldn't want you to miss out. Okay, let's get stuck in. G'day, it's Nigel McGill here from Sax School. I'm so glad you could join me for another one of these videos. Now, in Sax School, we run these regular masterclasses with world-class players, and you know what, I love to organise these for our thousands of members because it gives all of our members an opportunity to really have a close, personal, behind-the-scenes conversation with these amazing players so we can understand the way they approach practice, transcribing, their sound or improvising or performing. All of these things help us to become better saxophone players. So it's so important, and it's such a luxury to be able to talk to such amazing players. So recently we did one with Derek Brown. Now, Derek is a fantastic player and a fantastic technician. And I think he's also great at playing melody. Goodness me, he's the guy that performed by himself in front of loads of people and manages to hold an audience's attention. And it's not just because of technique, it's because of melody. So why is melody so important? Well, in our conversation with Derek, we got onto this topic, and I started off by asking him how he got started with developing his sound and what his background was. And this is what he had to say.
I mean, I fell in love with the saxophone in, well, I guess over here we call it middle school, like sixth grade. That's when I started the saxophone. And then, I realized, yeah, I'm kind of good at this, I guess. I mean, at least I'm practicing it. And so I thought, yeah, I'll go to college for music. And the main way you did that was kind of doing a performance degree, usually classical saxophone over here. And so I did that. And pretty soon, I learned about improvising, heard some of the great jazz masters, some of the other sax players that were playing really cool stuff. And it's like, wow, I want to do that too. And so I ended up being a kind of a double major in classical and jazz. And that both helped and hurt me. Ultimately, it helped and was great. And I always recommend that people, check out as many styles as you can of music. I think jazz musicians can learn a lot from classical musicians. Classical can learn from jazz. We can all learn from pop music. We can learn from country western music. We're all trying to connect people and communicate with people and just learning how to do that best, because music is a language, right?
Now, I found that really interesting because my background was exactly the same. I actually went through a classical degree in Australia in the 80s after high school because that was the best option at the time, even though really my passion was with commercial music and with jazz. But those things that you learn when you're studying classical really help to transfer over. And it comes down to technique and reading and harmonic knowledge, all these sorts of things, which also helps you as a pro player. So I thought that was quite interesting. Out of interest though, what sort of music were you first interested in when you started discovering the saxophone? Was it pop music? Was it jazz? Was it classical? I'd love to know. Let me know in a comment who the player was that inspired you. So I wanted to know from Derek, when he first started digging into saxophone, really getting serious about it, who were the players that just blew his mind, that he really wanted to find out more about?
Well, I will admit, and this is, okay, I don't know what it's like in the UK, but in the US, in the conservatories, there's certain jazz you're supposed to like. Yep. And then there's jazz and music you're not supposed to like. And first of all, if we back up, when I was a teenager, like a lot of my friends, I was listening to pop music, and I fell in love with like 80s pop music. And when I went to school, and then some of the first saxophone playing I heard was just kind of the hardcore smooth jazz. Every sax player at one point has been given a Kenny G CD from their aunt, and love him or hate him, he's super popular and he's just a super effective communicator, which I think, once again, we can learn from that.
He's also a fantastic technician, actually.
Yeah, I have heard that. And so, I was listening to Kenny G, Dave Koz, and I think that was really crucial for me, because it got me to, like, I remember when I was just a young kid playing the saxophone, I would go out to my garage and I would, like, turn off the lights and I'd put on these, like, Kenny G or Dave Koz CDs, and I'd close my eyes, and that was my first transcribing. And I think if someone had first given me a Charlie Parker CD or tape or record and said, transcribe this, I would have been like, first of all, what the heck is this? And this is impossible. And I give up, So that was kind of a good kind of like segue into jazz for me. But then, of course, I got to college and I learned, oh, that's bad music. Yeah. And now I think that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I tell you what's interesting about that, though, Derek, is by starting your journey there, the focus is on melody. And I think that's so important because, I know the older I've got, the more I'm focusing on melody. And now I appreciate how important it is, and actually how difficult it is to pull off a really good melody on your saxophone in a convincing way. All great players can do that, but so many young players come up, get excited about the blistering solos and the technique, and maybe it's the testosterone. Whereas maybe taking that other route would actually help them in the long run. So, no, I actually think there's loads of benefit. And strangely enough, a bunch of the fantastic players we've had on these sessions actually have admitted to a bit of a Kenny G fan time when they were younger. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think it's awesome.
Yeah. And I would just add to that saying, as far as the melody thing, when some people listen to certain of my songs, they might first kind of be drawn, or they might first notice, maybe even turned off by or turned on by all the technique and like the fast, all this double tonguing fast stuff. But what I'm really trying to get, because it is fun to impress people sometimes and play fast things. But what I'm really trying to get, what I really believe is going to last, it is the melody. It's writing good, beautiful music. And so when I am writing stuff, I do think a lot about the melody. And if I just have a bunch of notes, I'm not going to really turn that into a song. And so, I think that is so, so important.
Yeah, 100%. And that rhythm that you're playing, which I want to find out a bit about, that is supporting the melody. So it's that's the interesting thing about what you're doing, Derek, because you are the band, right? You're the rhythm and the harmony and the melody. So it all has to start, though, like you say, with a really strong melody and an understanding of the way the melody works, the way it holds together. So, those elements just are all there to support the melody. So, really, really
hopefully, absolutely.
Hopefully.
Because sometimes we all get a little carried away and we want to just play fast, but hopefully we come back to the melody.
We're boys. Can't help ourselves.
Yeah.
That was such a great session. And Derek went on to talk about the way he does slap tonguing and shared some techniques on how to do that. He talked about transcribing. He talked about performing and rhythm and so many great things to really help us as players. Even talked about his mouthpiece and reed setup, which was super interesting. But getting back to melody, how do we approach improving our melody as saxophone players? Because that's really what I wanted to talk about today. And there's 4 things that I think that you can do that will really help you to understand melody and to make use of melody. So the very first thing is you need to spend time listening. And I don't mean just to saxophone players, but to singers as well. So that means listening really, really clearly to all the details, the way the notes are started and stopped, where the breathing happens, the expression, all the little details in the sounds as well. So if you really listen closely, you'll understand so much more about a style, and listening to a range of different singers or other instruments as well, not just saxophone players, guitar players, piano players, violin players. All these different instruments have a different approach, and it'll help you to understand the style, and that'll help you to enhance your playing in the way that you approach holding a melody. So the second step is to start really simply. Start with a beautiful, simple melody. It could be a classical melody. It could be a jazz melody. It could be a beautiful pop ballad. I've got some videos on my channel where I did tunes like Tears in Heaven or I Have Nothing, the Whitney Houston song. those are really strong melodies that force you to really connect with the music, and that's really what we're talking about. So start with a simple melody and make that work first so that you can get all of the elements in there and really connect and get some emotion and some expression in that melody. Now the third step is to actually dig a bit deeper and record yourself along with a vocal track. This is a great exercise and it will highlight so much about your playing that you can improve, and actually it's a super fast way to improve your melody playing. So I like to do this even with something simple like GarageBand, where you put the audio track in and then you record yourself playing along with that audio track, and then listen back and compare and see how your saxophone playing compares with the vocal part. You could do the same thing with a melody on piano or a melody on guitar or any other instrument. So doing this process really highlights the things that you might be missing when you're playing along with that original recording. And it's a fast way, super fast, to fine-tune your playing and to really hone your melody playing chops. And the fourth step is to challenge yourself to make a recording of you playing that beautiful melody and then share it. You could be sharing it with friends and family. In Sax School, we share recordings with our community. It's such a great way to get support and feedback. But you could also share it on YouTube or on Facebook. And like I said before, you could check out my recent recording of I Have Nothing, the Whitney Houston tune, or the Tears in Heaven Eric Clapton song, which I did a little while ago. And that'll give you some ideas of some saxophone melodies that work like this. And there's a ton of other great saxophone players on YouTube who are playing pop melodies and I think doing a wonderful job. Hey, I hope that's been helpful to you and it's given you some insight and maybe some inspiration into practicing melody, how you can dig into it, and how you can use melody to really enhance your saxophone playing. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Let me know in a comment below as well. But also stick around and check out the other videos on my channel because there's a bunch of other stuff on here that'll help you to improve. And of course, if you're really ready to dig deep, then come and join us over at Sax School at mcgillmusic.com. We've got hundreds and hundreds of lessons and courses that'll really help you improve. And we've got a 14-day trial that you can get started with today as well. So, hope to see you in there, but mostly keep practicing hard and I'll catch you next time in the next video.